Seattle News Weekly from Fox 13.
Welcome in to another episode of Seattle News Weekly. Today, I want to get into the controversial slew of taxes that went into effect October 1st for the state of Washington. This has been a very controversial topic because it's impacting about 90,000 businesses. That's a lot of businesses. And I also say controversial because it was pushed by kind of a partisan vote, I should say. A Democrat majority, they pushed through this tax package. They want to generate about $9 billion over the next 4 years to pay for a lot of things. They say that it's needed because things are just getting really expensive to do business in the state, and they say they need the money. So that's one side. The other side are the people, some business owners who say, look, it's just getting way too expensive to operate in this state. And this is where my guest comes in today. Josh Dirks. Josh Dirks owns an advertising company in Seattle. Thank you so much for coming in and
Thanks
talking.
for having me.
You are the perfect person to talk about this because I heard through the grapevine somebody said, hey, there is a business owner in Seattle that making some drastic moves because of this tax. So tell me, what is this drastic move?
I mean, long and short of it is we're shutting down the agency that I've owned for 16 years and started here in Seattle. Over the last 5-6 years, it's just become so prohibitively expensive to run a digital agency in the state. And adding this on top of what we already have to pay for is killing the margins in the business and what makes a profitable agency at the end of the day.
You are shutting down, closing for good.
Yep.
I'm sure this was not an easy decision for you. I mean, that's 16 years of your livelihood.
Yeah, it's a really hard fact to face. I've always prided myself on being a really fair and progressive business owner. I mean, we've always paid for health benefits for our team, their significant others, dependents. We've had open PTO policies. We were doing work from home before COVID started. We've always been really about the employee and what makes great employees, and also training those employees that, as a small agency, you want to see them fly and do other things. And so we really valued Project Bionic as being a place that young people could come in, get experience, do really cool cutting-edge things, and then from there go on and contribute to larger companies in the area. And, after 16 years and looking at the math and, looking at where the reality of the business looks like, it's just not a business that's going to be easy to do anymore. And so it's time for me to find other things to fill my time with.
So Project Bionic, you are an advertising company, but on the digital side of things, right? Because I understand, so this retail sales tax is an expansion of the retail sales tax. And some business owners, I don't even think realize that it was going to impact them. But I'm sure you were paying attention to it. Did you do the math? Because once you were captured in this tax, I'm sure you sat down and said, okay, can I make the bills? How much more did you have to pay because of this tax?
Yeah, in our company, we're looking at about a $200,000 or $300,000 cost at the end of the day. The dirty secret of digital agencies, I'll take you behind the scenes, is you have the planning and strategy stuff, which is included in this bill, so that's being taxed 10%. You have the content creation, which is usually your smallest margin piece of the business, and then you had your ad buying aspect. And most large agencies make their money on the digital ad buying side. And the way we look at it is you're spending, $100,000 with us. We usually kept 15%. Well, now on top of that, we're actually asking them to go ahead and pay $25,000 to cover the tax on top of that. And what that's forcing a lot of Washington State business that we've done business with a long time, is they're looking out of state now. We just lost an account we had for 16 years that's now transitioning to an agency out of Los Angeles. And while the bill says that those agencies are supposed to be on the hook for this tax, how are they going to audit that? How are they going to do that, right? And so it just feels like a really uneven playing field. Even our peers in Portland now have a leg up on us when we look at regional and statewide RFPs. Because the cost is just going up on everything. And that's compounded with how much health insurance has gone up. That's compounded how much salaries have increased in the area, to help people stay up with how expensive the area's gotten to just exist and have a regular life.
How many employees did you have?
We had 16.
16. So you're a small business.
Yeah,
you're a small business. And so this retail sales tax captures your company, which is advertising services, but it has a list here of information technology, custom website. You got investigation, security, and armored car services also now captured in this sales tax. live presentations. That's interesting because I'm wondering, what does that mean? And then you have sales of custom software and customization of pre-written software or modifications to digital automated services, otherwise known as DAS. So I know that's a mouthful, but out of this long list that I just named, live presentations, that can be a number of things.
Yeah, it can be a ton of different things. Project Bionic had partnered with several agencies in town to go ahead and create an event called CoLab that was both in person and online.
Mm-hmm.
We were charging flat prices for that to come in. We weren't making, we didn't make a lot of money at all from doing it, but this would put us over the edge and actually cost us money to put on these type of events. And what's really sad about that is these events were about helping people understand new topics, whether that was the emergence of AI or some of the things that were going on in the digital space. And so we were helping improve and educate employees to make better workers and better business owners in the area. And now we'd be taxed on that and actually paying money into it. And I think that if you read the bill in a more sweeping way, this goes into ongoing training. And so it actually hurts our workforce and the labor here because our company is going to step up and do that anymore. I think that's to be determined, but I see it's going to create a big knowledge gap in the marketplace and really disincentivize a lot of business owners from doing ongoing training and keeping their teams at that level that need to be as the world is rapidly changing in front of us when it comes to the world of digital. What's
really interesting too is they carved out an exemption for print advertising. So newspapers that sell ads, they're not captured in this. And for example, billboards, if somebody wants to put up a billboard, that's also has an exemption. But on the digital side of things, that's where you guys come in. But also you may know that Comcast is suing over the advertising sales tax. And that's going to play out. So are you closely watching that? Because depending on what the decision is on that, it's going to impact you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful that we have big players in the state that have large legal budgets to go and fight this. I mean, let's not forget this was pushed through in 8 days. They didn't sit around and talk with us. They didn't come to the industry. They didn't bring people in. This was done in Olympia behind closed doors in 8 days. And we found out about it. We started hearing rumors of it. And then when we saw the bill come out and started reading through it, you were like, there's no way that if they would have taken the time to really think about the impact this would have, that they would have done it. And it's typical Washington State where they have a deficit and they go behind closed doors and ram something through without looking at the long-term impact on the businesses that are paying the tax base to go ahead and keep this a beautiful and wonderful place to live.
And I want to bring back the word progressive business owner. And I bring that back because you're going to have some people who say, look, companies need to foot the bill. We got to get the money somewhere, right? You got to pay taxes. And so there's always this ongoing fight every legislative session. I cover, politics in the legislature all the time. And it's that ongoing conversation. And they say, well, you can't tax the poor. So who are you going to tax in some way? So do you kind of maybe understand that side of thing, that ideology of things?
I understand that ideology from people that have never run a business. But when you run a business and you've seen your tax bill increase year over year over year to a point and you're seeing a whole other group of people be exempt from that, you go, what are we really doing here? And so I understand that we need certain services. We need to go ahead and help those that can't help themselves. I totally agree with that. But Washington State has a proclivity to continue to add programs that don't have high impact, that don't create the change. Just look at our streets, look at what's going on. And continuing to tell us we need to put more for it. I mean, what have we got for $247 million when it comes to the housing crisis right now? It's just one of those things where you keep seeing them waste money because most of them are long-term legacy nonprofit. They've worked in government their whole lives. I think there's only 17 people in the Senate and the House today that actually have a business background. And so I advocate to Washington voters, start reading what these people's backgrounds are. Go do research. Shoot, there's ChatGPT that can pull it together for you in 5 minutes. But really start to understand the candidates we're voting for because most of these candidates have always been at the trough and have never had to make cuts or really look at impact. It's just like in digital advertising. We get companies that come to us have budget. They want to increase that budget, but they want to know what works and what doesn't work. And we're incumbent to do that. And I think our state unfortunately, has just continued to create programs instead of really looking at the impact those programs have and what the return on the dollar is that we're spending on those programs.
Yeah, you want the return on the investment. You're not seeing that now. And so what are you going to do? 16 years, you're shutting down. That's an emotional decision. That must be really hard. That also means that you have 16 employees who are looking for another job.
Yeah, it's been really sad. I mean, some of my employees have been with me 7, 8, 9 years. It was really hard to say goodbye to people. We're down to a skeleton crew right now, and in talking to those employees that have left, it's a hard job market right now. And I think it's only going to get harder because of some of this stuff. I know that there are, other people in the creative space that are moving business out of the state. They're finding new ways of setting things up. They're moving out of the area, and so that hurts your local talent that's here, which in turn hurts the tax base. And so it's just this monster that just continues to grow. And I think that's where the common sense needs to come in, and people really need to think about the long-term impact of this stuff. But I hate it for my team. I valued my people, and it's a really hard day to look at and say, after 16 years, we have to close our doors and go do something else.
Right. Do you think that other businesses are thinking close to making the same decision? Have you heard from other people?
I'm very close with a lot of the Seattle-based, Puget Sound-based digital marketing agencies. I know a lot of them are looking at selling. And going, there's a lot of offers from private equity and stuff like that are out there for agencies, and I think that some of them are looking at selling their businesses and moving on and doing other things. I know some are saying they're going to fight it out, but they're very leery right now of what the viability of the business will be in 2026, and they're going to kind of play it out and see what happens. But for me, this has created so much of a stress on me that I actually had a health incident due to it. And was very depressed in June and July, just looking at this aspect, right? Because again, it's 16 years of your life and what you build. Project Bionic, just for reference, was one of the first social media creative agencies in the country. We saw social early in 2009 and what it could do for brands, and we were very proud of that fact. But unfortunately, after 16 years, as a business owner, you have a fiduciary responsibility. And in looking at it and looking at how much, I've cut my salary 4 times in the last 2 years. And we're just at a point where it doesn't make economic sense for me to keep going. And the agency model itself is broken in a lot of ways.
And it stressed you out so much to the point where you said you had a health issue for it. So this has really impacted you very much.
Yeah, very much. With my kids and stuff like that, having a conversation with them, it's tough. But I think that's, part of being an entrepreneur is dusting yourself off, figuring out what's next and moving forward. I spent a lot of time this summer writing a couple books. I'm about to launch what I'm really excited about.
Good for you.
Playing a lot with AI, although AI will fall into this because if you're planning an app, you're planning something.
Yeah.
But the model is a lot less human-driven, and so that's kind of what I'm looking at is like how do you move into something that's less human-driven, which is not good for our workforce, but that's where I start to kind of look and play in my next chapter of being an entrepreneur.
Right. If the powers in Olympia could listen to this podcast, what is your message to them as they go into another year, another session? Because we just talked about a lot the retail sales tax that you're captured under, but the B&O tax we haven't gone into, the business and occupation tax, that's going up for a lot of companies. I wrote my notes down here because there's just like a lot of numbers based on this. But the B&O tax, it says it's going to be basically going to go up from 1.75% to 2.1% for any business that grosses $5 million. But when you think about a business, you think $5 million is a lot, but no, because that's the overhead. That's not necessarily the profit that the person is taking home every year. So this also captures a lot of businesses as well. What do you think how is this going to play out, the B&O tax, in your opinion?
Well, Hannah, I think that's the misunderstanding. People throw around millions, and so you have people on one side saying, well, they make a ton of money. In a traditional agency, a 30 or 40% margin is where you fall, and that also then has to cover other things, right? So if you're even taking home 10 or 15% of that at the end of the year, that's where you want to fall on things. So it's not like you're getting rich and on a yacht on a $5 million business. And
right.
The sad part is that increase for B&O is on a lot of them are double impacted. They get the 10%, and now they have a 20% increase in their B&O tax, which B&O tax is based on revenue, not profits. And so if you're running a small business that is, getting by, has had to deal with tariffs or any of that kind of stuff, and then on top of that, you're being hit with this. And then my understanding is that in 2027, it goes from the 1.7 or 1.5 to 1.7 for those under $5 million. So they're increasing even on everybody. So if my message to Olympia was anything, would you guys please go visit private businesses, especially the small and medium business sector. It's great to talk to the Amazons and the Microsofts and the Expedias of the world that are here in town, but go talk to the small and medium-sized business. Go talk to Main Street and really understand the pain that's being created from decisions that are being made behind closed doors and rammed down, people's throats in 8 days. That's really necessary to get out. But in all the time I've been in business for 16 years, I've never talked to even somebody in the city of Seattle, much less somebody from Olympia has never called me and said, how's your business going? What could we be doing better? And that kind of stuff. I think there should be carve-outs for employers like ourselves that pay 100% of healthcare benefits. There should be a carve-out for that. For those,
because you were trying to do all the right things, like you said before. You just named all the things that you were doing, and I think anyone who is working for somebody would appreciate the fact that you're going out of your way and giving the health benefits and the PTO and all this stuff that you're saying.
100%. And ongoing training and bettering your workforce should not be tax. That should be something that is for the good of all and makes a stronger, better community because you have better and more competent people in it. But again, Olympia needs to spend more time with boots on the ground and really get to know businesses and start to ask deeper questions and really understand the math that's going into these decisions.
Also, on a separate note, though, separately, Seattle is also trying to restructure the way they do B&O tax. So this is separate from what we just talked about the state increases. But they're trying to say, hey, large companies need to pay more to compensate for the smaller companies. And they think that they're going to be able to generate a lot of money through that. And again, this is just Seattle. What is your take on that? Because technically speaking, you are a small business.
Yep.
So do you support what Seattle is trying to do by restructuring the B&O tax?
No, I don't. And you're going to just have companies move. It's what's going to come down to.
You mean large companies are just going to move?
They're just going to move. They're already starting to see it. You had HQ2 with Amazon and where they go. A lot of the stuff that's going on, I think you'll just see businesses say, hey, it's just too cost prohibitive to continue to do business here. And, I moved here in 2002. I grew up in South Texas. I moved up here in 2002 and loved the ingenuity and what the environment was with people and their conversations. But now you don't hear the same thing anymore, and you don't hear that same chatter in the coffee shops or at the bar that you used to hear. And I've been educated by a lot of people about the history, and there was the old sign down, I think it was on I-5 South as you went, that said the last person out of Seattle shut off the lights. And it feels like we're getting to a point now where the bigger businesses are going to start to leave. And if that's what the tax base is built on, instead of really looking at how we're spending our tax base and really trying to be moderate with our tax base, if it's just going to continue to go up, those businesses are going to leave, and it's going to create even more stress on the small and medium businesses and this B&O tax proposal from the city of Seattle.
One thing that I kept hearing from people who do want larger companies to pay more, that side, will say, there is so much money here. There's so much enterprising, and of course we still have a big tech industry here. So they're saying, look, we have the workforce, and there is so much money. And so their thinking is they'll just pay a little bit more. Maybe a couple people will leave, but they feel that things are just going to roll on. Obviously, I'm asking somebody who just shut down their business. So you're on a completely different mindset on that. Yeah. But what do you say to those people who say, hey, it's not as bad as what some people are saying?
Just look at the migration map since COVID started. I mean, the number of people that we know from here that have moved to, Nevada, to Arizona, to Texas, to those states is huge. It's amazing how much it's turned over. And those markets are bringing those businesses in and want that business and are, looking at their tax base appropriately. And so I think that at the end of the day, you can say that and you can say, oh, they'll never leave, but no one ever thought Boeing would leave here either. And they moved, and so again, I just think that you're just seeing it, and they're playing in the moment instead of looking forward and playing it out over a period of years at a time. It's not going to happen overnight, for sure. But even, with some of the things around employment right now and who comes in and who's a tech worker and that kind of stuff and the changing landscape of all that, don't rest on your laurels and just think that this talented, amazing work base is going to stay. It's evolving right now in a very big way, and that could meteorically change the face of what Seattle looks like. And for such a beautiful and amazing places to live and to be around people that are as free thinking and entrepreneurial as we have in this city, it's a really unique thing, but you don't ever take that for granted. And I feel like as a state and for a lot of people, we do take it for granted now. We just think it's always the way it's going to be.
Right.
And you can go to Cleveland, you can go to Detroit, you can go to those places and ask them what they thought back in the 50s and 60s, and it's not what they experienced, right? So history has a weird way of repeating itself, and I just hope that there are leaders that step forward. I hope there's people both on the state and city level that start to kind of really think about this, because when it starts to dry up, it dries up quicker than what you would think, and you don't have time to reverse it.
That's a lot. That's a lot to think about. And I think any good leader, you're right, has to think about what's happening 10, 20 years down the road, and not necessarily, we're okay, we need to balance the next 2 years. That's fine. Yeah. But it's what happens 10, 20 years from now that you're really worried about. And you just don't see the trajectory going, in your opinion, in the right direction.
Yeah, if you just simply start moving, I'm going to move my AI base to Austin. Well, AI keeps taking over and growing, and programming and some of the things that we have here that are core start to go ahead and they're not as important anymore, and those start to get downsized. Well, then businesses start to just naturally migrate and move, and that's a massive concern right now. I think that there's it looks great, but it's not what you think when you start to really pull back, and that's where people again just need to dig deeper and think a little bit more about this, and we need to come together in a way where all sides are heard, and we can come with innovative, interesting, and cool ways of solving these problems versus just continue to increase tax.
Are you considering going to another state and doing your business? Because like you said, your business is based on social media, and you were doing it even before other people were doing it. You thinking about maybe starting over in another state?
I will eventually. I still have, my youngest is a freshman, and so
you got family. You got family to worry about.
I still have a few years before I uproot them or would do that to them. So I still have a few more years here, but I don't even incorporate my businesses in Washington State anymore after this. Everything I'm doing in the future is going other places, and while I still have to fall under Washington State tax laws and stuff like that, I definitely will be geo-flexible in the next 5 years.
Oh, I like that. Geo-flexible. That's a good word. All right. Well, Josh Dirks, thank you so much for sharing your personal story, because I can tell that this has been a very tough time for you, and we really appreciate it. I think it's important for people to hear from a small business perspective, because I think, like you said, there's a perception that this is only impacting these large companies like Amazon, but it's not. It's hurting the person next door. Yeah. People drive by your place probably all the time because your place is Ballard, I understand, right? So a lot of people might realize one day you're there, one day you're not, and so they're wondering, there's a story there behind that. So
it's empty.
Josh, thank you again for talking with us.
Thank you, Hannah.
Okay. All right, so make sure every Thursday we have a new podcast that comes out where we dive into all of the big, details of the local news stories that are, making headlines. Make sure to tune in every Thursday.
Seattle News Weekly is available wherever you get your podcast.